My name is Nima, and I'm a recent graduate of the Health Sciences program from McMaster University. This poster here is just a summary of my thesis project that I did under the supervision of Dr. Archie last year. Yeah. I guess just to get us started off with some background information, my project was focused on evaluating the impact of a video game, but not just like any entertaining video game, an educational video game, on educating youth on the relationship between cannabis use and psychosis. Because what we see is that cannabis, even though it has a lot of benefits, there are a lot of harms associated with it too, particularly the incidence of psychosis and even later transition of psychosis into schizophrenia. So essentially, we wanted to see, how what role does education play in here? And in my literature review, I saw that Black youth in Canada were disproportionately impacted by, cannabis-induced psychosis. And this was very strange because when we looked at studies from their host countries, there was no difference between Black youth experiencing cannabis-induced psychosis versus, for example, white population. And in Canada, we saw that there was literally no culturally tailored intervention to allow us um, to educate youth about the relationship. So we specifically looked at this game because it's called Harry's Journey, which sort of goes through the character's game. His name's obviously Harry, and his relationship with cannabis, psychosis, and the pathways to care and all of that. The main purpose of this study, we did a mixed methods evaluation. We wanted to see quantitatively and qualitatively, does this game improve marijuana literacy? And we also wanted to do interviews and more qualitatively explore, how does this game, their community perceptions, their racial identity, how do those factors come into play when thinking about cannabis psychosis? We interviewed about 20 participants. All of them were immigrant youth. Most of them self-identified as Black, either from immigrants from the Caribbean or African communities. Um, the quantitative aspects are shown here. Uh, Essentially, what we wanted to do is some of our participants played our intermission game first, which was very journey, very depicted as series. Some of them played our control game, which had no educational component whatsoever to it. And right after playing that game, we sort of did our knowledge quiz, just asking them, for example, what is psychosis? How much would, for example, marijuana increase the risk of psychosis? And there was also very interesting. All participants had about the same age. There were a few more males than females. What we can see here is those who played our intervention game first scored significantly higher on their knowledge quiz. This graph was also a nice graphical representation of that. The p-value was very, very significant. So it was really nice to see that there might be potential solutions to educate you about marijuana psychosis. Through our qualitative interviews, we also examine what are some major themes that people notice, just reflecting back on their own cannabis use and any, newfound understanding that came about after playing the game. Three main themes that I found when I was looking through the interviews was this idea of community. So a lot of the participants talked about how their community perceives marijuana use and psychosis and how that could, for example, influence their use. For example, some might come from communities where marijuana use is more socially accepted, and some might have support if they develop psychosis as a result of marijuana use, or the opposite could also be true. Marijuana literacy, of course, was a very big theme as well. But I think the biggest thing that really jumped out at me was this theme of personal reflection. Of course, a lot of the participants resonated with Harry and what he went through. It was very similar to their own experience. But the biggest thing I think was the changes in personal attitudes. There were some participants that, for example, told us that they may have never used marijuana or their patterns of use may have been completely different if they had been exposed to your sort of education earlier on, which I guess just goes to show how impactful educating you, especially through something that might not be so conventional, I guess, in terms of education would be. And yeah, that was sort of my project. I hope that as the years go by, we see more and more of these interventions. Maybe this game implemented on a wider scale.